I'm here with my team. We are going to give you an update on the COMESA digital retail payment platform. And it's always really good to be amongst change makers like yourselves who are meeting to try and solve the problems that we face in the financial space within our region. So I would like to say thank you to all of you for being here. Thanks to our partners for making this possible. Now, in trying to solve the problems that we have, the COMESA, or the Common Market for East and Southern Africa, is a regional economic community of 21 member states, and part of its objective is to grow regional trade and achieve economic integration. And this is on the broader perspective also of the AFCFTA. And one of the challenges that we still face today in achieving those objectives is the difficulties in access to cross-border payments, which maybe are inclusive and accessible. And the COMESA Clearinghouse, of which I represent, got a mandate to try and work out payments for cross-border trade of goods and services. Now, today I'm joined by Dr. Jonathan Pinifolo, who's the program lead for the digital payment platform, the DRPP. I'm also joined by Dr. Warren Karu, who's the CEO of Infitex, who is the system implementer, and Patrick Ibrahim from the Reserve Bank of Malawi. This platform falls under the purview of central banks. So welcome, colleagues. Now, in the implementation of the mandate of the COMESA Clearinghouse, we have, in a big way, been able to achieve the facilitation of trade, facilitation of payments across borders. And still, one of the problems we faced was the realization that we have relied greatly on traditional mechanisms where we focus more on the convertibility of currencies, US dollar and euro mostly, but recognized that this is not enough to support trade between the SMEs, MSMEs, individuals who are marginalized, and therefore supporting our trade becomes difficult. So this gave rise to the bold objective of digital financial inclusion. And the journey to the digital financial inclusion has brought us to the DRPP, which is where we are today. And for the DRPP, we have relied heavily on Mojaloop. And this is where the Mojaloop open source platform is not only relevant, but has become very transformative for us because it has given us a platform that is bold in terms of shaking up the space, which is what we are hoping to do and which is what we are working on. It has given us a platform that is transparent. The platform is flexible and drives down costs, and we shall hear more from my colleagues. So, and I am pleased to say that the vision of the DRPP is relying very heavily, or is very heavily aligned, to the core objectives and principles of Mojaloop. We like to call them the 3 I's, inclusivity, interoperability, and innovation. And if I may add, and thanks to our partners once again, and our funders, the DRPP, again, is very much aligned to the core objectives of the Gates Foundation, and that is trying to bring down, not trying, but working to bring down the costs of cross-border transactions and encourage and build financial inclusion. And so that is where we are today. And in fact, we can say that we are not just aligned to the goals of the foundation, but the DRPP is actually a flagship driver of these objectives for COMESA. And if I may add, the foundation is not just supporting payments within COMESA, but there's other initiatives that it's supporting. So I thank you very much. And please indulge us for a few minutes, the next 45 minutes, as we give you an update on what we've been doing. We will look at the outcomes and the journey that we've taken so far, the soft launch configuration, We will look at our success factors and what has made us come to where we are today. We will look at the clearance and settlement primer, and we will also tell you about the vision of the DRPP. So indulge us for a few minutes, and we do have in mind that we are what stands between you and your lunch. So we are mindful of that.
So just to double click on what Jedida said, so in as far as COMESA is concerned, it's a home of 655 million people with a combined GDP of 1 trillion USD. So apparently, in as far as trade is concerned, it's very low, less than 20%, sitting at 14 billion annually. So as pointed out, we are trying to solve the issue of intra-trade, and one of the intervention factors in as far as this is concerned is to do with payments. So going to the regional outcomes, some of the regional outcomes that we are looking at, for instance, number one, equitable inclusion of all citizens and classes of traders across the COMESA region. Essentially, what we are saying is each and every trader within the COMESA region needs to be part of the payments platform. Today, if you go into some of the countries, cash still remains king, and we all know that cash is inefficient as well as not secured as well. Secondly, we are looking at the aspect of scaled access for Forex providers. So as we go along with our presentation, you know to say that with this platform, we'll have various Forex access providers which will be connected to the hub. So by virtue of being connected to the COMESA hub, they will have the access to the whole market as long as there is approval from the various central banks. But also the other aspect is to do with participation of our traders, be it small, medium, informal regional trade. Today, if you look at the global export as well as import market for COMESA, we are talking of figures around 450 billion USD. So we want to increase this figure so that by the end of the day, there are increased cross-border transactions, but also with our plan to integrate with various value-added services, like for instance, the e-commerce platform, we want to have increased visibility of African products within the region. So having engaged IFTIX as a system implementer, our approach in as far as the implementation journey is concerned is a phased approach. So basically for now, what we are looking at, we are going into the soft launch, and then thereafter, we'll be looking at the commercial availability. So ideally, for phase one, we'll be talking of fake money being on fake rails. So ideally, the DFSPs will connect to simulated infrastructure using fake money to test the system integration without any associated risk. And then also we're talking about the fake money on the real rails, whereby testing will continue on live rails, still using fake money just to access system interaction with the real infrastructure. And then we shall go into our soft launch with friendly user trials, with real transaction within a limited number of groups, but also then we shall eventually go into the closed user groups, whereby there shall be full deployment of the platform being in place, thereby also trying to solve any other challenges that may arise. So basically, if you look at phases 1, 2, 3, actually this is almost done. Of course, just also waiting to connect some DFSPs within the platform. And then once this has been done, everything has been signed off, this is when we shall go to the full commercial deployment with the platform going live, being secured, as also being a compliant platform in line with the governance requirements.
So I'll just take the opportunity to talk us through the soft launch configuration. The soft launch configuration will ensure that the early adopter cohorts, the DFSPs in Zambia and Malawi, are able to connect to the platform. During this phase, the DRPP will host emulated national IIPS schemes on behalf of those jurisdictions along with the regional hub. This setup ensures that the regulators maintain jurisdictional sovereignty while allowing local operators to explore the solution's capabilities. It's important to note as well that part of the solution for DRPP is FX providers are only connected to the regional hub, and this gives them scaled access to the rest of the network. DFSPs will connect exclusively to their respective schemes or emulated national schemes in this case, and all settlements here will be done in local currencies. We'll go through these in more detail further on in the presentation.
The progress is concerned further, you notice to say that we have engaged, we have the early adopters, but also the contributors. From the previous convening, I talked about the 3 working groups that we're working with. We do have the commercial as well as the legal and the technical and standard. So the commercial are basically looking at commercial aspects, like for instance, the pricing structure, the cost structure, which I'll talk about later on, but also the legal and regulatory are looking at other legal aspects, like for instance, scheme rules and the like. So basically, just to highlight on the advantages of the early adopter program. So like for those who are part of the early adopters, they will enjoy quite a number of benefits. Also like being, in as far as being first movers, they'll have several advantages on insights into the operation processes, as well as other aspects. But also in as far as strategic direction is concerned, DFSPs, FSPs will contribute in refining the scheme rules and other operating guidelines or even scope of works. But also as of now, we'll be talking about issues to do with exclusive support. So the DRPP program provides onboarding as well as participation support via the system implementer, IFTIX, but also through our local system integrators. So we have Aijani in Zambia. We also do have a company called IMOSIS in Malawi. So other benefits include, like for instance, the greater alignment, but also even trying to achieve the financial inclusion objective, which is also one of the key aspects in as far as this project is concerned.
Okay, so as part of the work that we are doing, I think we recognize that success does not mean the technology aspect only. There's a lot that goes into making a payment system or a payment platform successful. And this is why we've put this to just show that you may have a very good system in terms of technology, but if you do not then address some of the other factors, your chances of success could be limited. So we do have stakeholder collaboration, regulatory support. We have the collaboration of the ecosystem, cross-currency algorithm, and we'll go into detail shortly. Rapid go-to-market strategy, and a compelling value proposition above everything else. And all this, I think, are pointing out to the fact that this is a strategic and operational model, which says, let us work on everything in parallel. We cannot do one without doing the other. And so, for example, on stakeholder collaboration, this has been such a backbone to where we are today. In fact, I can say when the DRPP was started, the original model has changed a few times. And this is from collaborating with stakeholders and making sure we have a fit for purpose system by getting feedback from the very constituents that we are serving.
So to ensure success in the DRPP, like Jadid has already pointed out, there's need for a lot of stakeholder collaboration. And one of the key stakeholders in this whole exercise is the central bank. Both, I think, the Bank of Zambia and the Reserve Bank of Malawi being, I think, the primary environments within which this system is going to be tested. We play a number of key roles. Firstly, we have responsibilities for carrying out oversight and enforcing compliance. We make sure that we provide a legal basis for the DRPP. We make sure that our participants, whoever is joining, is screened thoroughly and they're complying to set rules and regulations, be it at the domestic front or on international based standards like the AML, CFT. The aim indeed is to provide clear guidelines with no ambiguity whatsoever, so that when you participate, you clearly know your responsibilities and what is expected of you as a participant. Secondly, we also have vis-a-vis monetary policy and fighting domestic financial market infrastructures for processing of or have an impact on the flows or payment flows within these systems. And we cannot run away, one or two issues to do with liquidity management, exchange rate effects. So it is our responsibility to make sure that if there are any liquidity management issues, we come in, we assess, we intervene timely. If there are any exchange rate issues, because this is a cross-border infrastructure, we come in and try to resolve these issues tenaciously so that we don't delay transactions. We stand by the name instant payment systems. We also have a role vis-a-vis risk management and cybersecurity. Like we said earlier on, the priority is to safeguard against digital fraud, cyber threat, and operational risks. So as a central bank, we do cooperate with stakeholders in order to put in place a robust risk management framework. And we continue to monitor and identify any potential threats to this DRPP, just like we do with the existing domestic infrastructures. So the aim is indeed to take corrective measures on real-time basis and make this environment safe for operators and end users at the end of the day. We also have a role as a central bank to play vis-a-vis capacity building and stakeholder engagement. The aim here is to promote awareness and sensitize potential users of the system. You agree with us, I think, because this does not just end at the participating FSPs, but even the micro and small order enterprise, the common man on the ground, they have to be aware, because that's the idea of the DRPP. We have to reach to the bottom of the pyramid, the people in the MSMEs. So we promote, we have structures that we have in place at the domestic level. We have like the National Payments Council, where we encourage financial service providers to reach out, but we also have what we call the National Task Force on Electronic Payments. It takes on board everyone, the government, the banks, the MNOs, local authorities, so that everyone is included in the promotion and adoption of usage of digital financial services in our countries. But we do also support innovation and financial inclusion. That's what I was referring to earlier on. So the idea here is to expand financial access to the underserved populations within our country. So briefly, those are the roles that we are carrying out and will continue to carry out as we see through the success of this DRPP within our environments and then take it across to other jurisdictions.
Yeah, so thank you very much to our central banks who are working with us in this corridor, Bank of Malawi, Patrick, and also Bank of Zambia, Madam Miriam. So essentially, the two central banks, as of now, they've given us a go-ahead to connect the actual DFSPs, which is very good progress. So collaboration is indeed very critical, but also among others, we have like the enablers, the DPI foundations, like for instance, Moja Loop, which has also helped us to have this novel solution for local settlement algorithm, as well as even others like, for instance, the area adopters, which I mentioned earlier on about, the regulators, even starting from World Bank, international standards that we're following, but also the COMESA Committee of Governors of Central Banks. And also we're looking at other supports, like for instance, from the government support. So in 2021, through the heads of the COMESA Heads of Summit, which was held in Egypt, they actually endorsed this program because it has got an impact on the MSMEs, which is also a very good collaborative support. So essentially, one of the key success factors is collaboration over and above the technology itself.
Thank you. So one of the really powerful things that this is allowing us to do, the fact that we have this collaboration with all the stakeholders, is we're able to look at what is the actual algorithm that's being used. How are we able to optimize the flow for currency conversion? So the system allows for DFSPs to connect to their local schemes and operate only in their local currencies. There's a pre-funded model, which makes sure that we are always going to be able to settle appropriately. We use ISO 20022 for IPS and orchestrated with the merge loop flows that facilitate that inclusive outcome. And that's really important because it allows us to minimize the major cost that we were hearing about earlier, which is actually how do you deal with disputes? If we can minimize the disputes, we minimize one of those big costs to the platform. For foreign exchange providers, this algorithm also gives them economies of scale. One, they are able to connect once to the central hub and access all the markets for which they have authorization to operate in. They can manage their Forex exposure because they can provide quotes on a per transaction basis. And they're going to be able to settle in local currencies in a pre-funded model, which means that they're always assured of the actual outcomes. So if we look at a slightly more detailed version, I'm going to have to speed through this because we've taken a bit long. But the first phase of a DRPP transaction is that it has a discovery element, that there's got to be a way where we can actually find that, you know, whose account are we sending things to, and we make less assumptions than you might do if you were having to send a wire on today's systems. If you can click it on it. And then And then we have the agreement phase where we agree both the conversion terms with the FXPs, and we agree the payment terms with the destination FSPs. And then in the transfer phase, that's when once we've agreed all of those terms, once that is cryptographically locked, we actually execute the transaction. There's the only time when you start to use the liquidity, that pre-funded liquidity that you create an obligation against. And it's during that transfer phase that is accounted for and facilitates the clearance of funds to the end users. And then separately, there is the net settlement process, where both the national schemes and the DRPP at the center will come up with the actual settlement requests. Those will be merged into a settlement report or payment matrix that is issued in each local settlement provider to operate in local currency.
So the other success factor is the rapid go-to-market. As of now, I should also say that we do have like existing financial as well as technical support. So again, many thanks to our partners at the Gates Foundation who have nurtured this project since 2019. It's almost 5 years now. So we had to start with the business case. We did the business model. We did the policy framework. And now we are at the implementation stage whereby anytime from July, we'll be talking of the commercial deployment. So ideally, in as far as In as far as the deployment is concerned, I think we are going to deploy the INIPs in both jurisdictions, that's Malawi as well as Zambia. But also the other aspect that will lead us to the rapid go-to-market is the soft launch, which I talked earlier about, involving the 5 phases. And this will refine the operational approaches. And also the other aspect is the support that we have received from the both central banks of Malawi and Zambia, as I pointed out, to say that we've got the approval letters to connect our DFSPs. And then finally, the other aspect is to do with the standards, which is ISO 222 for IPS. That will be robust for future interoperability. The other one is to do with the value proposition. So if you look at the payments platform itself, it's going to be operated on a reduced risk, greater efficiency, and finally a reduced cost. I think the session earlier on focused also on the cost drivers, and I'll deep dive a little bit in as far as the cost drivers are concerned. So in as far as value proposition is concerned, I think there are 5 key aspects that I want to bring to your attention. Number one is to do with the local currency need settlement, which Dr. Warren just talked about. But also we are talking of the second aspect, which is to do with instant and inclusive payments. So if you go into the COMESA region, most of our traders, when they send money, they don't want the money just to be lying idle. They want to send the money, whether maybe it's a supplier should receive the money there and then, without having to wait maybe for a day or so many days in as far as settlement is concerned. But the third aspect also is to do with wide geographical reach. So we are not only connecting commercial banks, we are also connecting even mobile network operators. And when also you look at our traders, most of them are in the rural areas. They are using maybe mobile phones to make infrastructure. And this gives a wider geographical reach. And last but one, we are saying this is a secured system, but also we have a cost model which will bring affordability. Most of the challenges with most of the traders within the COMESA region are worried about affordability. We even made some when we were doing a case study in 2019 who were saying, I would not prefer to use a mobile money for transactions because there's a cost of transaction. But this is a thing that we need to discourage so that they should be able to use digital platforms. So just to wrap up on the business processes, our pricing, our cost structure is what we have worked on is quite affordable. So basically what we're saying is we are targeting the World Bank less than 3% in as far as the principal in cost is concerned. And the structure basically will involve the variable conversion cost, which is going to be maybe done by the Forex provider, but also a tiered DFSP processing fee. So ideally, this is going to be variable in a way, and I will also be putting up a DRPP processing fee, which will be very constant regardless of the amount of money being sent. Will be at 2.5 cents. So what we are trying simply to say is this is going to be affordable because it will be like at the end, the payee will not going to pay more in as far as the transactions are concerned. So basically for the users through their DFSP service channels, whether it is a USSD or an app or a website, that's the type of cost that they're gonna see. A variable conversion cost from the FXP provider plus a tiered DFSP processing cost. Actually, I'll just maybe I like giving an example. 2 months ago, I was sending money from Zambia to a bank in China, $100. I paid around $15. But in this context, with the modeling that we've done, we'll be talking about somewhere around $1.5, which is indeed very affordable in as far as the platform is concerned. So in wrapping up the business processes, we're going to take you through a video, a demo on settlement and clearance. Can you please put up that demo?
During this phase, we are looking for any national island of the half of these jurisdictions, along with the regional hub. This setup the regulators make jurisdiction sovereignty, while allowing local operators with full solution capabilities to co-develop. It is important to note that foreign exchange providers are only connected to the regional hub and maintain accounts in all currencies for which they are authorized for their FX services. The AFP is connected exclusively to their traffic local team and transact solely in local currency. This configuration allows a wider range of the AFP to participate.
DRPP transaction begins with the discovery phase. During this stage, interconnected schemes confirm that the payee's account is active and supported currencies identified. The payer is shown the account holder's name for verification. Once confirmed, the agreement phase begins. In this phase, the system requests currency conversion terms from the foreign exchange provider and transfer terms from the payee's DFSP. These terms are cryptographically locked, so cannot be subsequently altered. The payer is presented with the full transaction terms for approval for greater transparency. The cryptographic lock-on pre-validation significantly reduces the negative impacts of failed transactions. Upon confirmation, the transfer phase is executed, resulting in funds being secured as obligations are created. The transfer is both irrevocable and non-repudiable, as it is based on executing end-to-end cryptographically signed agreements. This transaction is cleared in real time, meaning the payee receives cleared funds immediately. Finally, at a later time, settlement occurs. This involves settling net obligations by transferring ownership of pre-funded liquidity, typically happening at least daily. Let's use a peer-to-peer payment example to demonstrate the clearance and settlement flow. In Malawi and Zambia, DFSPs, MBM and Airtel Zambia are linked to local schemes and conduct transactions exclusively in local currency. The foreign exchange provider FDH is connected to the regional hub and maintains accounts in all approved currencies. The obligations are recorded in the transfer phase when Horace's bank, NBM, commits to pay the FDH 9,700 Malawian kwacha, and Airtel Zambia is promised 160 Zambian kwacha from FDH. Pre-funded liquidity as required by the scheme rules guarantees the deferred net settlement against obligations. Looking at accounting flows in the DRPP's representation of the DFSP and FXP accounts, acting on behalf of Horace, the National Bank of Malawi secured liquidity cover from FDH in Malawian kwacha. FDH in turn provides liquidity in the form of Zambian kwacha to Airtel Zambia that allows Airtel Zambia to clear the transaction into Peter's wallet. The settlement process finalizes obligations between participant parties, including the FX provider, by transferring ownership of pre-funded liquidity through a request to the local settlement providers. Understanding that in order to ensure jurisdictional sovereignty that allows regulators to have their own rules and the pattern to be consistent with independent jurisdictional IIPSs, the Zambian, Malawi and DRPP system presented here are all independent platforms. This means that the accounting used to represent the DFSPs and FXP and to reflect their interactions requires the introduction of international payment accounts into each of the systems. This is what the settlement process looks like when including the international payment accounts. However, since the pre-funded liquidity represents funds under management outside of the DRPP itself, a further step is required to create the instructions for the local settlement providers. The mechanism that allows this is the multilateral net settlement algorithm, which aggregates multiple low-value transaction obligations into a cost-effective net settlement request. The payment matrix is constructed from the settlement process in local and regional hubs to create a single currency net settlement request that is to be processed by each local settlement provider. This process settles obligations and redistributes pre-funded liquidity. Thank you for your attention. Please reach out to the COMESA DRPP team for further information about participating in the DRPP Regional Hub and bringing cost-effective cross-border payments to your country.
So that might have seemed like it moved pretty fast, but we're happy to give more info. We're happy to engage bilaterally outside of this room. Just as a wrap up, and before we take the questions, allow me to just quickly go through the vision of the DRPP. Commercial availability, we've spoken about this, my colleague Jonathan, and I'm not even sure we should call it a vision. This is actually a present opportunity that we intend to grab. So we, coming from the launch, the soft launch, we shall be going into commercial availability. We cannot wait to serve real users, real transactions, and begin making the real impact with the DRPP. We will also be onboarding other COMESA countries, additional countries, because we are starting with the 2 pilot countries. And a system is only as good as those people that are using it, and it's widespread. So other than onboarding the other countries, and each of them will come, they will all be at different levels of readiness, and so it will not be an instant activity, but we will take it as quickly as we can. And this is where we also include, we talk about interoperability because it gives us an opportunity to go outside the COMESA region. So DRPP is not just for COMESA. Our vision is to make sure that because we are building an interoperable system, we can bring on board users and participants outside of the COMESA region. Our vision is to ensure that outside of the infrastructure, we've got other services that can be quite driven within the DRPP. So not just payments. How about we do e-commerce? How about we offer credit? Because our main constituents or the target is the underserved, the bottom of the pyramid, as we say it. So we offer credit scoring, and many other services that we can add. And that's the true definition of inclusive, because it's not just about saying, come on to a system. What is that system giving you? So we are including much more than just payments. Now, another thing we would like the DRPP to do is to become an innovation and testing ground. Once we are able to offer all these additional services, how about we use this as a ground where we test new ideas, we test complexities that come around in the market, and we bring about, new products. And this is how we keep innovation going and we remain relevant. So we build a fit for purpose system within COMESA and within our region. And the only way we can achieve regional integration, whether it's payments, whether it's trade, it's through working together and testing all our ideas. So we thank you for your time, and we will we'll put back to the floor for questions. Thank you.